How are you?
Bruce, hey, very well, thanks. Thanks for being early. I think I'll pause the recording until we get a quorum. Good morning. We'll give it a few minutes while people trickle in. Normally, we kick off once we have a quorum, but people are slow to trickle in. So good morning, Richard. Good to see you at the conference, and congratulations on your book.
Thank you, Reza. I think I need to put you on the payroll.
Thank you for my signed copy.
At least give you a retainer every time I make a sale. But thank you very much.
Right.
Great to see you there.
Check out Richard's book, Reweaving the Web. I think you'll find strong alignment with your thinking.
How many books are you going to pull out today, Reza?
I don't know. I've got a big reading list.
Yeah, because Bruce has quite a few.
And there's one or two as well. Yeah.
I have the Norton Anthology of English Literature, if that helps.
Nice. Coming from the record business, are there promo copies?
My book is Norton English Literature Anthology. I think the other one's been around a while.
So great. Where people are rolling in. Good morning, Sam. Good morning, Ham. Good morning, Eduardo. Yay. Gosh, that's a name from the past. Haven't seen you in a while. Good morning, Jim. Good morning, Daryl. Good morning, Zach. Good morning, Randall. Good morning, Tom. Okay, fantastic. People are trickling in. Okay, so the recording I've started, and for the purpose of the recording, this is Friday, November 1st. This is the Kwaai Weekly Public Meeting, number 66. Myra, why don't you take it away? Maybe project the agenda.
Am I not sharing that?
You might be. Maybe.
I can see it. I see
Oh,
the
you
agenda.
can.
I see something about me up there.
Well, yeah, of course, you're our guest of honor. So obviously today, Reza, if you would start with any Kwaai updates, and then we'll do our lightning talk with Bruce, and then move on to our work group updates.
Fantastic. Okay, so we got back late last night. Ruth and I drove back from the Bay Area. Just an event-filled week, and I'll give you a more detailed report, but it started off with Doc Searls' Project VRM. That was largely dominated by consumer reports. They came there en masse. I think it was before Project VRM would be a small room meeting, and this time it took up an entire hall. And so the videos of those will be published, and it looks like we've got a strong brand, a strong ally in our corner of the ring, and this is Consumer Reports. So Consumer Reports believe that consumers, individuals, need to have their own personal AI that advocates on their behalf, and they would like an organization to develop it for them. And so is that not amazing? Can we think of an organization that's open source, volunteer driven, and nonprofit? And so we had very, very strong meetings with them. There was a good presentation. We met with them at a sort of a managerial level as well as an engineering level, and those meetings are going to continue. So that's fantastic. I'll talk more about that. Then there followed the rest of the week was IIW, Internet Identity Workshop. This is an unconference, so you all assemble in the round and create the agenda on the fly. People stand up, say, hey, I want to talk about this subject. And then they get allocated a room and a time slot, and off you go. It's a very inspiring way of organizing a conference rather than the upfront, call for speakers and then the whole sort of sausage making of a conference, and this was very, very exciting. So that day, I think it went on to Thursday. We didn't participate on Thursday. Thursday morning, I had a meeting with Inflection. I'll tell you more about that with the CEO, Sean White. Very interesting meeting, understanding how for-profit entities are responding to where they're positioning themselves in the personal AI space. Okay, so look, I don't want to suck up too much time because we've got our guest speaker, Bruce Schneier. And we don't have to use the Bruce bot that we created for him. You can go and play with that, but now you've got him live. You've got the man in person, and we've got him for the first time at our weekly public meeting. So thanks so much, Bruce. Over to you. And I think you've got share privileges. So if you want to share,
I am not a sharer, so you can just take that away. I'd rather see all your faces.
Fantastic. Okay.
How long do you want me to talk for?
Look, you've got up to 20 minutes.
All right. So let me see where it goes. It might take a little longer than that. You could pull the sharing down so
we
that I
can
can see.
Right. We just want to see his face. So let's unshare these.
There we go. That's better. Now I can see all of you, including you who are not having cameras on. I want to talk about AI and trust. I think fundamental to a lot of this space is trusting an AI. So let me talk about trust in general to start. Trust is essential to human society, right? You trust thousands of times a day. If you're sitting in a room with a group of people at a conference, which some of you were yesterday, nobody jumped up and attacked the person next to them, right? You laugh, but we're the only species for whom that happens. If it was a conference full of chimpanzees, there would have been bloodshed. Society can't function without trust, and the fact that we don't even think about it is a measure of how important it is. So I want to make 4 arguments in this brief talk. 1, so there are 2 kinds of trust, interpersonal trust and social trust, that we regularly confuse them. 2, that confusion will increase with artificial intelligence. We're going to make a fundamental category error. We're going to think of them as friends when they're actually just services. 3, that the corporations controlling the AI systems will take advantage of that error, right? They will not be trustworthy. And 4, it is the goal of government to create trust in society, and it is their role to create an environment for trustworthy AI, and that will lead us to regulation. All right, so let's back up and take that slower. So trust is a really complicated concept. I wrote a book on trust, and it's a single word overloaded with a lot of different meanings. So there's a personal, intimate trust. If I say I trust a friend, it's less about their actions and more about them as a person, right? I have some general reliance they'll behave in a trustworthy manner. I trust their intentions, and I know their actions will be informed by their intentions. That's interpersonal trust. There's also a less intimate, less personal trust. We might not know someone personally or know their motivations. We can trust their behavior, right? I don't know whether you want to steal, but I can trust that you won't today. It's more about reliability and predictability. And I'm going to call that social trust, the ability to trust strangers. Both are essential in society today. And there's kind of a mechanism here, right? So we have mechanisms that induce people to behave in a trustworthy manner, both interpersonally and socially. We could talk about those, I wrote a book about. That in turn allows others to be trusting, and that enables trust in society, and that keeps society functioning, right? It's not perfect. There is a crime rate, there is a murder rate, but it's good enough that society works. So 12 years ago, I wrote a book called Liars and Outliers, and I write about 4 systems, 4 mechanisms for enabling trust: morals, reputation, laws, and security technologies. And I write about how the first 2 are more informal than the last 2, how the last 2 scale better and allow for complex societies, that they enable cooperation among strangers. I didn't actually appreciate how different they were. Right? Morals and reputation are person to person, based on human connection. Right? They underpin interpersonal trust. Laws and technologies are systems of trust that force us to act trustworthy, and they're the basis for social trust. So I don't know if you know that taxi driver used to be the country's most dangerous profession, and that Uber changed that, right? Through like ubiquitous surveillance. I don't know my Uber driver, but the rules and the technology lets us both trust each other for that momentary transaction, right? We're both under constant surveillance and we're both competing for star rankings. So a lot of people write about high trust versus low trust societies, how they scale, predictability makes it easier to live. There's a lot here. The important thing to know is the scale, right? You used to need a personal relationship with a banker to get a loan. And now it's all done algorithmically, and you have more options to choose from. Less personal, scales better, right? That's the difference. But that scale is vital, right? We are trusting regularly governments, corporations, brands, organizations, groups. Right? I flew yesterday, and it's not that I trusted the pilot, although I did actually just trusted Delta Airlines to put well-trained and well-rested pilots in cockpits on schedule. You know, when I had lunch earlier, I trusted the cooks and the wait staff, but I really trusted the health codes here in Cambridge. Right? I used an ATM machine. I don't even know what I trusted, like some abstract system, but I did. So that's me. I mean, think of the restaurant. Imagine it's a fast food restaurant run by teenagers. The food is almost certainly safe, probably safer than in high-end restaurants because of the reliability and predictability of the systems those teenagers work under. Right? That's the difference. I could ask a friend to deliver a package across town, or I could ask the post office. The former, interpersonal trust, based on how I know my friend. The second is the service. Both get my package across town, only one can become FedEx. Right? So we use the same word for both. And when we do that, we're making a category error with governments, organizations, systems of all kind. We think of them as friends when they're actually services. And language makes that easy. The same grammar, like we have personal relationships with corporations, we give corporations some of the rights of people. But they are not our friends, right? They are profit-making entities. And I think we're going to make the same category error with AI. We're going to think of them as friends when they're not. I guess I got to talk about existential risk. Let me move that aside. These are controlled by profit-making corporations that are going to use them for their interests. Right? This is not new. Surveillance is business model of the internet, right? I mean, this is just a continuation of what exists before. But we, even today, use all of the services, search, social media, as if there are agents working on our behalf. When they're not, right? They're double agents, secretly working for their corporate masters. Whether it's your TikTok or a Facebook feed, your Amazon search results, your Google search results, right? We trust them, but they're not trustworthy. So AI will be no different, but I think the results are worse for two reasons. The first is that AIs will be more relational. When we're conversing with them in natural language. And as such, we're going to naturally ascribe human characteristics to them. Right? And that relational nature will make it easier to hide their double agent agenda. And you've thought about this, right? When the AI suggests a hotel, is that the right hotel for you? Or did they get a kickback off the back end? Right? When they explain a political issue, is it a neutral explanation? Or did some party pay them to slant that explanation? The second reason I worry is because the AI is more intimate. And this gets to the notion of personal agents. Right? We're going to want them with us 24/7, constantly training on everything we do to be the best they can be. And it's going to help us in all sorts of ways. You know what they are. And you will default to thinking of it as your friend. Right? I mean, just go on the replica Reddit page. You see where this ends up. Right? You speak to it in a natural language. It responds in kind. If there's a robot interface, it'll look humanoid or like an animal. It interacts with your whole of existence. And natural language is critical here. We are primed to think of others who speak our language as people. Right? We make that category error with obvious non-people, like cartoon characters. Right? If it has a face and a voice in it, we have a theory of mind. And we will want to trust it. It'll use our mannerisms and cultural references. I'll have a convincing voice, a confident tone, an authoritative manner. It'll be optimized to exactly what we respond to. It will act trustworthy, but it'll not be, right? We won't know how it's trained. We won't know the secret instructions. We won't know their biases, but we will know that they will be built at enormous expense by for-profit corporations for their own benefit. Right? And I think there's no accident these have a human-like interface. That is not inevitable. That is a design choice. They could be less personal, less human-like, more obviously a service. You know, like when ChatGPT answer like types its results slowly. That is complete bullshit, designed to make you think it is thinking. Right? They want us to make this friend service category error. So power matters a lot here. Right? You know, sometimes we have no choice but to trust somebody because they are powerful, like the local police, only law enforcement in town. Some corporations, they're monopolies. AI is likely to be in the same position because of the monopoly structure right now of the dominant corporations. And that friend service confusion helps mask the power differential. And if we think of it as the AI as our friend, we forget about the powerful corporation behind it. Just like you tend not to think about Facebook as powerful, it's just where your friends are. So this is all a long-winded way of saying we need trustworthy AI, trustworthy sort of up and down the stack, behavior, training, goals, everything. And the market doesn't provide this on its own. Right? Corporations will not do this. They are profit maximizers. Government is how we get trust in our society. Think about contract law, or property law, or personal safety laws. Any of the health and safety codes lets you to like eat at restaurants or board planes without worry. Right? These are the underpinnings where the market lives. You don't have those underpinnings where the market goes all the way down and you lose all trust. Right? The more you can trust these things are predictable, the more you can ignore their details. So I want this with AI. And it's a lot of things I want. I want good transparency laws, how it's used, how it's trained, biases, tendencies, laws regulating AI safety, laws enforcing trustworthiness. Right? I mean, EU is trying there. I think gone further than anybody else. There's a long way to go. But I worry about laws that regulate AIs, not the people behind them. I mean, AIs are not people. They don't have agency. It is the people, the corporations, the organizations behind the AI that I want to see regulation. And I want to see public AI models, right? Either built by academia, nonprofit groups, government, owned and run by individuals. So I mean some very, very important things here. I think this word is being thrown around a lot in ways that are not helpful. This is not a corporate model that the AI is free to use. This is not a corporate model that the government is licensed. This is not actually even an open source model that the public's allowed to just examine. It is a model built by the public, for the public, ground up without the profit motive. I think you'll get a different kind of AI if it is not market driven, right? Political accountability, not just market accountability. And I don't think we yet know what that looks like because we don't have one. Right? So I want universal access to anyone to build on. I mean, I don't want to replace corporate AI, but I need a counterpoint. I need something to balance just the nothing but corporate AI. I mean, we're never going to make AI into our friends, right? We're never going to have interpersonal trust with an AI, but we can make them into trustworthy services and not just double agents. But the government has to mandate that. And I think government can do this, right? The point of government is to create social trust. Right? Trust is vital in society. It's how society scales, but it is not something the market gives us. It's something that we give ourselves through government. And I think this is hard, but I think there's no actual alternative here. So I'll stop there. Happy to take questions. I'm super excited what this group is doing because I think this is something on the road to that that's essential, that we don't have any other way. And that's why, you know, the first time I met Reza, I said, this is great. You people are fantastic. Why doesn't the world know about this?
Thank you so much, Bruce. Wow, you're always a tremendous inspiration when you speak, and this is an advance of the talk. This has progressed since the talk you gave at our last at our Kwaai Summit back in.
You should know I'm writing a book on AI and democracy right now, which is largely optimistic.
Wow. Okay.
And it's not about fake news. It's about like AI doing useful things like writing legislation and finding and closing loopholes and acting as expert witnesses in litigation and what all that means.
So I think adjacent to the topic that you were talking about is the topic that Sam is very interested in. Sam Johnson, who's one of our board members, and he heads the operating system group. He is very concerned about the way that the open source definition of AI in particular is being deformed and redefined.
I worry about that because it has to include, I mean, right, because of the way they're designed, it can't be you just can look at the code. Right? Yeah. That does not work in a generative, in a machine learning system. You've got to be able to look at the pipeline. Like, what does the training data look like? How is it trained? How is it, you know, how it's programmed matters in these systems in a way it kind of didn't when it was like a regular algorithm. So okay. Yeah, I think that's important. That if open source is just, open it up, look at it, what the hell? That's going to mean nothing.
We've got 2 questions in the queue. First was John Connors and then Matt Small.
I've got nothing to add to that, Bruce. You've nailed it right there. Bruce, as Bruce Perrin said, the author of the open source definition, the training data is the source code for AI.
I like that. You let me know if I can help you in any way.
I'll certainly follow up.
Okay, let's hear from John. You
Ray is your name, correct? I joined a little late, so you want to make sure I get your name right.
Yeah, Bruce Schneier.
Schneier.
Oh, Bruce. Sorry, Bruce. Bruce, really great, really great talk. Really appreciated your perspective. Is there any way you could take, your conceptual wisdom and help guide some teams in a hackathon? We're doing a pre-summit hackathon in late February, early March, and we'd love to build on your wisdom with practical applications.
I am happy to help in any way I can.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything that you could just think of right off the bat that would be like the lowest hanging fruit to bring your wisdom to fruition in a real world application?
Let me think about it. I mean, I want a personal model. I mean, I want to, getting these to work requires trust. And so I don't know if you know, I'm part of Solid, which is Tim Berners-Lee's distributed data architecture initiative. And we are billing ourselves as a data structure for personal AI. Because of the fine-grained permissions that the standard allows. It just makes it easy. We want to expect people to give everything to that AI. So can it just run locally? Can it, or run in some secure enclave in the cloud? Is there a way people can do that without, and you're also giving it to Facebook? Because that's going to be a thing. So I want ways that the AI can use the data without stealing the data.
Yeah, love that. So maybe we could partner with that organization you referenced. Yeah, I didn't catch it.
Email me. Solid. Solid's W3C standard.
We'll do. We'll email you after the fact.
Yeah, email me, and I'll send you the specs.
Thanks.
All right, Matt.
Thank you, Bruce, and thank you from a year ago as well. For that rousing talk at the Kwaai Summit as well. I've certainly been on that soapbox of services are not friends and personification's a psychological trick. I'm curious from your perspective, does personification, as well as your bot, that we have up there on the Kwaai website, has no face, and you had made a specific request to not have that personified as you. Do you believe that personification has any place in personal AI? Or
I don't know. So this is interesting. People are going to want. I wasn't being facetious. You want to see the scary nature of the future? Go to the replica Reddit group and read the transcripts of how people are responding to pretty basic AIs, and it's a little squeaky. I think people are going to want personification. I think it's going to be I mean, we're moving away from the era where the humans have to conform to the computer interface, and the computer will conform to the human interface, and that leads us to personification. So I think it's going to be natural. I think people are going to want it. They're going to want Jeeves, a butler. They're going to want an assistant, a therapist, a life coach, a travel agent. They're going to want someone who's talking to them. And if something is talking to them, they're going to personify it. If you don't call it Siri, they'll call it Siri. It'll just happen. So how do we make sure that's safe? Because that is such a human thing to do. That's what our goal is. That'll naturally happen. How do I keep people out of trouble? Because they're going to do it.
And
this is where I want
people?
those guardrails. Sorry, go.
Any suggestions on how to remind people that these are non-human systems?
I don't know. I mean, it's good. If it's good, it'll say, OpenAI will do that occasionally, right? I am not a real person. I don't have feelings, but here's what I think. Those constant things. When is that going to get annoying? I mean, we don't really understand the interface yet, but we should really think about it.
Right.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, so you're not wrong about the trust thing, right? A couple of years ago, one of my studio companies made a digital human interviewer, and just recently there was a video did the rounds of a digital human interviewer interviewing an obviously GPT wired digital human candidate, and the point was to take the bias out, so you wouldn't actually see the candidate, the digital human would, but that would be quite a significant security vulnerability. And I just did a post on how if you don't have the training data, which loosely related to the AI question, the open source AI question, then you are either enabling or exacerbating. At the time, it was 11 out of the top 10 OWASP top 10 for LLMs, because we hadn't eliminated it. We hadn't got it down to 10 yet. So I guess my what I want to hear from you is about the implications of security of AI when the model is a black box, and name names, but there's plenty of black box LLMs out there, and how important that training data is to addressing those issues, finding those needles in the haystack. You may not find them, but you've got some chance if you've got the data, is my view.
Right, but we can also have AIs doing that kind of work, right? And it's gonna be AIs auditing AIs, and I'm okay with that. But yes, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, we're moving to a world where computing will cease to be human understandable. So now what do we do in that world? We're used to working in domains where we don't understand what's going on. I mean, go do any work in pharmaceuticals. It's freaking amazing. They have no clue why half the drugs work. They just know they do. It was approximately 100 years after the invention of aspirin that we understood how aspirin works. So this kind of overhang, think of it as intellectual debt, right? That we're doing the thing, but no, we don't know what's going on. Happens a lot in pharmaceuticals is a good example. It's going to start happening in computing. Right? I mean, I don't know. The AI is good at math. Why? I can't tell you. Right? It's really good at translating languages. It didn't even know that language. How'd it work? Who knows? It just works. And that's gonna be a lot. So in order for us to be okay with that, we need to know it's not being subverted somehow.
Yeah, I whipped up a little at IIW in a work group. I whipped up a thing called Data Guardian, which uses AI to make access, like AAA decisions, authorization decisions. And I've just popped a link to the JSON.
Yeah, see, that's the sort of thing. I think that's good.
Yeah, so it would say, okay, your accountant is trying to do your tax return, and they've got your W-2, but they don't need your portfolio, right? Because it's not relevant to tax.
Because the problem with doing that now is it's too many damn questions. I mean, even as many I get as my phone, which is too many, which is like maybe 1 or 2 a week. Would it be great if an AI knew my preferences and could answer most of them, and I could audit it if I want? I mean, the ways we can sort of make this good, right? And this gets back to Doc Searls' vision, right? Can an agent express your preferences, negotiate on your behalf, and let you know when something weird happens?
Yeah, the example was handing over a passport at border control. It's like, you're a border control, like you got a passport. Probably you can give the border control agent your passport for 60 seconds, right?
Right, right. Probably you can. But, if it is an INS agent 100 miles into the border, maybe you want to ask.
Exactly.
And that's going to be tunable, right? Most people just want it to work. Right. So people will download, here's the permission structure from the ACLU or my political party or my fraternal organization or my school, right? Right. There'll be a lot of delegation. So we have to make that work as well.
Okay, we've got a question from Day.
It's a bit of a question. It's a little bit more of a comment just there on the tunability, which I absolutely agree with. But I think we've seen a lot of cases recently, and some of the Google antitrust stuff has a lot to do with how much defaults matter. So if I think there's a need coming kind of from humanities, social science, philosophy, to come up with those best practices for the defaults.
Right.
Because
yeah,
the reality
and we're
is
still fighting with that with social media.
Interact with the thing, they're not going to know how to tune it.
Right.
Yeah.
We are still fighting that with social media. With the defaults, the dark patterns, the subtle manipulation. We really want to fix that. That's bigger than AI. I mean, that kind of manipulation, and whatever state that has the new law that it's got to be as easy to unsubscribe as it was to subscribe. And I mean, like, there's some ones that are really bad. I mean, like, I think Sonos is one of the worst ones. Although I'm about to cancel Amazon Prime, so I've been told that's really, really hard. But there are guides online for canceling Amazon Prime, right? But so we need to fix this. It's not just AI. AI, I think, is going to make it more subtle. It'll move the manipulation into the conversation rather than sort of like overtly in the design. And I worry about that. I mean, how is Google going to monetize AI search? Right? They monetize regular search by basically giving you links you don't want and hoping you click on them. Right? That's the way it works. People pay to show you the link they want you to see rather than the link you want to see. I hope you click on it. And over the years, that differentiation has gotten more and more subtle. So you're more likely to make the mistake. Right? It used to be over to the side in yellow, then it was on in the stream in yellow, then it wasn't in yellow, but it said add in a big letter, and now it says add in tiny letters. And in Amazon, sometimes it's really hard to tell, but often the first 5 or so pages of your search result are not what you searched for. They're what people paid to show you. Right? It can't be less subtle with a conversation. Right? You're going to ask it, I'm interested in lunch. And it'll say, well, I'll tell you, but first you should know that I was paid to give you these offers. You're not going to use that. Right? It is paid placement. Cam just wrote that. But if it's not flagged as paid placement, you're not going to know the difference. And you want the AI to suggest a vacation package. That's what you want. You don't want like to get 3 options. One of them is paid and 2 are not, and you don't know the difference. You want one option that's optimal for you that hasn't been paid for. That's what you want. That's why, right? That's why you went to the travel agent. They get a commission from everybody, and they're working for you. Your investment counselor, right? Your therapist. I mean, and the real world has a lot of bad stuff here, right? Doctors get kickbacks for prescribing drugs. We know that. Right? And, travel agents probably got kickbacks from certain vacation package companies. But we can do better here.
Bruce, thank you so much for being an early supporter of Kwaai and the important movement. We're going to hit you up on a number of areas where we can work together.
I'm here for you.
Thanks so much. There's another summit coming up in March 6th through 9th. We'll send you details on that.
Where's it going to be?
It's going to be in Pasadena again. You can dial in. Look, we've got another one. We launched an EMEA chapter, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and it's headquartered in Italy. So the summer EMEA summit is going to be in Venice. That we hope to get some healthy sponsors for, and it'd be great if you can participate in person or or via conference, that would be lovely.
Actually, inviting me to Venice is not hard. Just letting you know that.
Okay, I thought not. So so that's fantastic. And look, we are itchingly close. We're so close to launching the beta that's going to go into 30 universities and colleges, and we hope Harvard will be one of them. We've obviously got your bot up and running, but this is a bot that is designed for professors. It is actually a virtual TA, a teacher's assistant. So you know the emails that a professor typically gets 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock for an essay that's due at midnight, where the student is having problems understanding the prompt. You now say, okay, talk to the hand, talk to my bot. Here's a bot that's armed with my course curriculum material. It's not ChatGPT. This is my curated knowledge, the instructor says. And so now the instructor gains agency. It's the instructor's bot. It protects the instructor's intellectual property. It's not owned by the administration. It's not owned by the institution. It's owned by the instructor, and it gives them a superpower. So now they've got basically their customer support for their students 24/7. And so that system, we're close to rolling out the beta, and we'd like to engage with you further on that and see if we can get it into the campus. Fantastic. Okay, Myra, now you've got the hard job of getting us back on track, getting us back on the agenda. Thanks so much, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce. That was very enlightening. Yeah, back on track. We got work group updates. Before, I guess you were going to give us more details on this week.
I don't know. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. So I think it's
Balaji and Cyan for the assistant, PI assistant.
Fantastic. Okay.
Hey guys, I wasn't attending the call this week. This is Balaji here. Probably someone from Arcus can give update.
Okay. And if not, we can give more time to Sam, because I know Sam's got a lot to talk about. Why don't we do that? Why don't we hop to Sam and give us the OS update and the open source update as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a busy week for us. As Reza alluded to before with the travel, I went to TechCrunch Disrupt and then went down and met the team, Doc and Reza at least, down at IIW. And I've since been to Montreal and just landed in Toronto. So it's been a very hectic week for me, and I'm off. The next stop is New York. So I have not done a lot of coding, but that is largely because of the focus on the OSAID, the open source AI definition, which went out on Monday, despite strong and strenuous and consistent objections from the community. And that has, aside from the first couple of kind of embargoed press releases and articles kind of pandering to it, the tides are really starting to turn fairly quickly against it. Which is good because we are, truly open source. We're out there with our MIT license, which is a very permissive open source license. And we really need for open source to be meaningful in the context of AI, because it is just such a strong differentiator. And I've said before, there's not as nearly as much point in us even doing projects like PyOS if we can't go out there and say we are open source AI, and for people to understand what that means. So Linux Weekly News came out and did some really great journalism around it. And just today we've had Bradley Kuhn is one of the early open source experts who came out and did a post on the Software Freedom Conservancy, which was really really gets to the heart of the matter. And basically says, look, this doesn't do what it says on the tin. It should never have been rushed out. It should never have been released as a definition equivalent to the open source definition. And you've said it's humble, but the humble thing now to do is to basically say, admit you were wrong, repeal it, retract it, change it to a recommendation. And then basically, if you won't do it, I will. I'm now going to, you've triggered my candidacy for the board, basically. And so he's going to run potentially a ticket for the open source initiative board. with a view to correcting this historic wrong. The thing that I would ask all of you to do who haven't done it yet, and so there's been a handful of people who've done it, but we really need this open source declaration, so opensourcedeclaration.org or osd.fyi. I'm adding the ability to sign up by email and by form. For the minute, you're going to need to be able to send a plain text email or do developer things like have a GitHub account or a Codeberg account or something like that. But please, all it says is open source. It means what it's meant for the last 25 years. That's all it is. Here's the definition is open source definition .org, which is where we've cloned it, right? And we've got a copy of the OSI's license database that we've converted into I've built a WordPress plugin for that. And so the various other critical services that the OSI has been provided, let's kind of replace them with a short shell script. So please do support that. It is really a precondition and strong dependency for PyOS and other projects we're working on. Back to you.
Okay. Yeah, so comments there, just post a link here in this chat, but also lower the barrier to entry so that more people can sign up. Not everyone's got a GitHub account, and so okay, great. Look,
if you need to, I'll ping me and I'll add it manually, but I'll certainly also set up a much more streamlined process. That was deliberate that it had a bit of a barrier to entry, but it affects everybody. The whole of human creation is being washed through these black boxes. And our creativity is being tainted by the content oligarchs, is what Alistair Kroll was calling them, right? So this is really quite a human level problem we're dealing with, and open source is the cure, a potential cure, right? So if we go and throw away the antidote, that's not good.
Yeah. So open source, like the term green, like the term organic, has a value. The terms green and organic have a value in the consumer mind, in the layperson's mind. The term open source has not got to the consumer consciousness yet, to the point where governments step in and say, hey, this is actually a branding or a certification that needs to be protected. We'll get there. But at the moment, the industry has to do that. And we're in a mode where the definition is being distorted in order to perpetrate open washing, which is just quite heinous. Okay, so look, I'm going to try and recover some time. There's a talk that I gave at the conference, and I gave it in various forms. I gave it in an hour-long form and a 10-minute form, but I'm going to do it in a 5-minute form now. Okay, so it's called QuaiNet. It is, we were talking about digital public infrastructure. I described to the audience the progress we'd made since we met last time. Look, congratulate yourselves. You are contributing to a movement with your tired hours, and that has amassed to about $7 million in-kind contribution. We're clocking probably just under $1 million a month in volunteer hours if you value it at a nominal rate. Okay, generative AI, great leap forward. Hooray for humanity. ChatGPT can answer all my questions, but we're a bit skeptical that it really doesn't know about me. It's got a big repo of general knowledge that it's vacuumed up from the internet, that from those sort of fonts of truth and wisdom like Twitter and Reddit and so on. But does it really know about me? Well, there are options for personalizing an LLM. You can retrain and refine it, but wow, that's horribly difficult, and I really don't want to send you all my private data. So Doc Searls says, hey, you need to create AI for her, respecting her privacy, giving her a superpower, not eavesdropping and trying to monetize her better. She needs personal AI. So when you go and look at the internet and go and look for personal AI, you come across a company that actually calls itself personal.ai. And they say, grow a network of AI personas filling key roles in your organization to boost efficiency and streamline workflows. Really? That doesn't look like personal AI. That's more personnel AI, as Doc calls it. My favorite is Pi from a company called Inflection. Tell you more about them in a second. They started off pursuing personal AI, and now they've thoroughly pivoted towards enterprise AI. But the AI they have is also armed with general knowledge. You think it knows about you because it's keying off the information you give it in your prompt, but it doesn't actually have your personal knowledge. It's reflecting optimistically. It's building up a theory of mind in your mind that you're talking to a human entity. Okay. Doug Clinton, never met him, but he says, hey, personal AI should really not be built on centralized models. Keep your data local, bring the processing to the data. Can we really do that? Well, the storage, we can. Smart money is now actually on NAS storage, network attached storage. Gig for gig, it costs about 2 months worth of rental in order to own that amount of storage. And in a post-pandemic world, most people have got strong enough broadband that you can have that storage available 24/7 and secure in your own home. Okay, but can you run the processing local? Well, yes, you can if you have a sufficiently powerful machine. Here's one that I've been ogling. Shall I wait for the M4 to come out, or shall I go and buy the M3? That's powerful enough to run a local language model, an SLM rather than an LLM. You're just using the language model for its linguistic capability, but you're bringing your data along in a RAG vector database. And if your vector database is about 1 gigabyte in size, you can run that in real time, in a sort of conversational real time. But how does that scale? Well, in order to address that scaling, the fact that this over here costs $3,500, if you want to rent that equivalent machine in Amazon, that's about $2,000 a month. So you could buy it for less than 2 months rental. But most people, when they run it in Amazon, they'll be incurring that $2,000 a month bill. So we thought, okay, can we make this? Can we create a platform? And that's what Sam's working on, PiOS. It's answering this topology here, where you've got a large language model as a service in the cloud. You query it, it gives you answers. But hey, my data is down here. They say, well, you can send your data to us and pay us a subscription. But we don't want to do that. Instead, we want to run it locally. So, and we don't want your cloud, and we don't want to pay you a subscription. So this is PiOS. PiOS is a framework for building a personal assistant. It's highly modular. It allows you to choose your small language model, choose your vector database, choose your vectorizer. And the other benefit of it, if you look under the hood, all of these things are configurable. You can change the persona, and it's multi-tenant. And so when we introduced this, when we showed this off to Doc, he said, that looks like another corporate AI platform to me. Why are you putting multi-tenancy in there? Well, it's a stepping stone. We're first going to deploy it in universities and colleges, where the multi-tenancy basically brings the cost down 1,000-fold. Great, okay. But how does it scale? Well, it turns out that it struggles when the vector database gets beyond 1 gigabyte. It's just too slow. So in our labs, we're looking at alternates for this. How can we shard the database? And that's what we're working on. Can we shard the database so that in one server, you're not only hosting your own data, but you're also renting out space. You're both a landlord and a tenant. And so that we call distributed RAG. And of course, the obvious criticism from Sam is, I don't want my data running on my neighbor's machine. So hence we are looking at confidentially distributed RAG. Look, it's research at the moment. It's not ready for prime time, but I felt like in the audience at IIW, we can talk about this and see if we can get any supporters and collaborators on this. The notion is we homomorphically scramble the data before deploying it on another person's machine. Great. Okay. And Dave Grantham said, okay, I'll run your red team. And hopefully we're going to pass it by Bruce's critical eye, since he's a leader in the cybersecurity space. Okay, so it's on the road to building Doc's vision of a fabric of where we can cast our intent. So the bottom layer is a storage fabric, next layer is a community inference fabric, and the third is, I'm not going to go through all the diagrams. Brian Ragazzi at Project VRM, he gave a demo of that. We didn't do the demo again at IIW. Instead, we showed off Balaji's proof of concept. It would have been lovely to be able to show off the beta, but hey, it wasn't ready. So thanks so much. That's it. End of the show. Did I do that? I did it in 7 minutes. Okay. So now,
Reza, there's been a couple of asks for if you could share that deck.
I can, and it's on Slack. It's in the QuaiNet folder. Go for it.
Okay. Did you get that?
Oh, so Dave, sign up to
Yes.
Kwaai. Go.
If it's in the Slack, I'll need then the link to join Slack.
Yes, I will send that to you.
Okay.
Yeah, just sign up at kwaai.ai and you'll get Slack access.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, fantastic. In fact, any of you that are not members, become a member. They give you more access than you have on this weekly public meeting. Great. Okay, so I think we've got 8 minutes and time for new member voices and also anticipation of the after party. Okay.
New members, please raise your hands. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay,
And
I'm going to put some people on the spot as well.
go for it.
Okay. Well, I'd love to hear from Christine Chambers. Christine, you can come on camera and unmute yourself and say hi.
Hi, Reza. You really have put me on the spot.
Tell us what's going on. What's new in your world?
What I'd like to know is when a beta version would be available outside of for the education community.
Yeah, it's a good question. Look, you can play with the proof of concept, which is on the website. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's a bit dated. That's since Q1. We're gonna put it in beta test for about a quarter, and then it'll become generally available after that. We chose education because we thought it was a safer space. It's not overtly corporate, and it's not also as sensitive and dangerous. Some people are actually testing their beta in a medical context, and I think, gosh, there's so much liability and risk involved in that. So bear with us. We're a volunteer organization. As you know, in my old job, you and I work together at Real. I'd be able to say to the team, okay, here's the schedule, here's the old style Gantt chart, and by this time we're gonna have this thing done. No, you can't do that in a volunteer organization. So we hope for this to be released this year. We are at the stage where it's running on developers' laptops, but the deployment stage, the automation into the data center is coming. And once that's done, then we'll roll it out into 30 universities and colleges that have already applied. So that includes Harvard, Cornell, Rutgers, and a whole bunch of others that I can't remember. Let us have them kick the tires on it, and then general availability in Q1.
And just the last question is, as a non-technical person, how can I help more? And maybe that's just a question more broadly.
Look,
so you can think about that. I'll
think about that. And thank you so much for volunteering your help. Thanks so much, Christine.
Yeah.
If you don't put your hand up, I'm going to call on you. Eduardo Ye, I have not heard from you in ages. What's new in your world?
Hello, Reza. How are you? I wonder if you guys can see me.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for calling out. I've been very busy with working with Audrey Hepburn. I don't know, maybe most of you know Audrey Hepburn's is her first son, Sean, has been a longtime friend of mine. And he's always been in the forefront of also technology and how that impacted the image of his mom. And as an estate too, there's a number of opportunities that comes his way over the years, as far as commercials and sponsorships. And so I've always been like avatars, right, showing the AI. And when the generative AI came to the scene, I started to also experiment with the centralized platforms, which really didn't help. It wasn't approximating the likeness of her. And of course, those models were trained because I think she was one of the most photographed women in her time. So the data is everywhere. Now, thanks to open source, right, the stable diffusions, and now it's like there's the Black Forest Labs, they're releasing the open source. We were able to take that and train our own model, the custom models. And we started very early, like 2 years ago, in creating this Instagram page, Digital Audrey. And we would be experimenting and as an opportunity to educate, because there is a lot of of course, people that are encouraging, forward thinkers, but then the anti-AI. And we saw that, in fact, in a positive side, in educating them, in something that is going to be inevitable. And this is, we're talking about Audrey, but then it's going to be for every one of us. We're all going to have digital twins. And now what we're going to do with that data, with the custom models, where it's going to be stored. So all that, I just wanted to provide a little bit of glimpse because it really aligns. It's a very important topic. And I'm really looking forward to learning more, contributing, and of course, getting the support from all of you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Eduardo. That's exciting. That's really you're always working at the cutting edge of various things. I remember you were doing 360.
Sometimes too much cutting edge.
Yes, you're always out there. Okay, fantastic, Myra. When you got a chance, if you can post the after party coordinates, there's a idea exchange that happens afterwards. Look, I wanna riff on the format of the summit. What that format is, because the deadline to submit that proposal is tonight, and I'd like to submit that. So that's what we're going to be discussing afterwards, plus other topics. Great.
The link is in the chat now.
Interested...
I've done a form, by the way, for the open source declaration to make it easy for you. Please, I've just got a couple that I'm adding now to the list. Click on that, put in your name and link or email or whatever, and away you go. Nice and easy.
Thanks so much. That's great. Okay, so look, we're coming up to time, and it's been an exhausting week. It's been a really exhausting week. I missed a lot of meetings during the week. I apologize if you got on the meeting and I wasn't there. And hopefully we're going to get our Zoom stuff sorted out so the meetings don't require me to be on there. And Myra's got it under control.
On that. That was my task. But I did join a bunch of calls as you, and then left after I made somebody a co-host.
Other people joined as me as well. You recall?
Yes, Bruce.
People who had my laptop and were grading essays. And yeah. Okay, so look, I just want to finish off by telling you what happened at Inflection. So I had a meeting with Sean White yesterday, new CEO of Inflection, and like personal AI, they've all pivoted towards enterprise AI, because that's where the money is, they say. That's where their private equity investors, that's where the VCs are telling them to go, not to do a consumer play. Which they call it's a consumer play. Personal AI that's truly personal, they call it a consumer play. Okay, ironically, their former leader, Mustafa Suleyman, who went to Microsoft, is pursuing what's called a consumer play. I don't know to what extent that he's doing that. I'll reach out to him and see if we can get a conversation. However, the Inflection CEO, Sean White, said, well, we're actually a public benefit corporation, which means that they've got a double bottom line. It means they've got a C Corp's bottom line, but they've also got a bottom line of doing stuff, doing good. So we reflected on the fact that, yes, he's got to pursue the short-term goal. That's what a for-profit company has to do. but a non-profit entity like Kwaai can play the long game. And that's what we're doing. We're playing the long game. And so we were doing the dance about how can Kwaai help Inflection play the long game while he pursues the short game of pursuing revenues and profits. How can Kwaai and Inflection partner in order to play the long game? The long game is truly personal AI. And so we found after an hour-long conversation that we had reasonable alignment, and we're going to pursue that alignment further in other ways. So yes, an easy ask would be to have him as a guest speaker. Great, check, and we'll figure that one out. The next thing would be to have him sponsor maybe our Q1 summit. Great. Everyone, when you say, hey, the EMEA summit's in Venice, Italy, yes, okay, we'll do that. And we've been pulled into another event through Richard Branson's organization on Necker Island. Wow, everyone says, yes, okay, sign me up for that. So these are interesting. The event stuff is an easy sell. The other stuff is harder. Okay, can you open source your Pi front end? That's Pi, their AI assistant, because we think it's probably the best of breed conversational bot. And he says, yeah, we can look at that. In fact, it was him that suggested, would you take our software and run it inside, on top of PiOS? So I thought I was going to have to suggest that. It turned out he suggested that. So we're going to have to look under the hood of what does a technical integration look like? Would they open source their code? Because that's a prerequisite for us. We're not going to be taking in, being perpetrators of like distributing closed source stuff within our open source platform. Okay, so look, it's a very exciting meeting, and I'm hoping to have many more like that. I'm really grateful to Doc for making these introductions and getting these super high value meetings going. So I'm very excited. We're over time. We're 3 minutes over, and we should move to the after party because there are probably people waiting there. Okay, but I don't speak to you again. Have a great weekend. And tomorrow, next week is going to be back to normal schedule, all of the work group meetings and so on. I hope to be on them. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Gonna check out now.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye. Yes, everyone. Good weekend.